an onslaught on over-the-counter cold medications, and they're very scarce in the stores right now. So the one that works for me the best is Mucinex. I don't know if you use Mucinex.
Surely love Mucinex. Yep.
Mucinex, pretty good. I mean, I got to say, it kind of busted it up after I finally got a hold of some. But it took me 2 days of searching various stores to find any Mucinex on the shelf. And then when you get there, there's like one packet left, and there's 3 or 4 people descending on it. It looks like an NFL fumble, right? Where you keep digging at the bottom of the pile. No, the Colts got it. No, it looks like the Ravens. Unbelievable.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you here on this fine Wednesday. Jeff DeForest and Mike Lubie Lubitz. And Lubie has lined up another blockbuster, at least in our opinion, for you today. As later on, as we always do on Wednesdays, we'll go old school in the 8 o'clock hour with our good friend, dear friend of the program, and iconic South Florida broadcaster, international broadcaster. He achieved a lot of international acclaim as well with the George Michael Sports Machine, where it's a little weird when you like to sub better than the actual guy. Lubie, have you ever found that to be the case? Usually they would put it under the heading of so-and-so, like you would be filling in for me, and they'd say, Mike Lubie Lubitz is a breath of fresh air.
I don't know about
After
that.
listening to these stale, corny, worthless, arcane jokes and references of Jeff DeForest, we're glad he's out for a couple of weeks. Lubie really shining. Deserves his own spot on the station. You know, that would be the thing in like the Barry Jackson column or the media column.
I didn't get that.
No, he wouldn't write that. But anyway, Tony's going to be with us, man. But when he used to sub for George Michael, man, you were like, this guy's better. Even though Michael was the guy that invented the whole thing, he came up with the idea of putting rodeo highlights on late at night, and it worked for him. You never know what's going to work, right? The guy that put the wheels on a suitcase, everybody thought he was out of his mind. What are you going to drag this thing around like a dead body's in there? Now look at him, probably a zillionaire. You know, it really made out well. I don't know if this was an invention of an individual or some company came up with it, but the guy that came up with the poop bags for dogs. What do you think, Lubie? The reverse glove technique, you know, where, I mean, you're not even afraid to pick up dog shit. Like me, I'm not, a little delicate when it comes to this stuff. But Skippy takes a dump on the church right by Sister Mary and Teresa. And boom, I'm right in there with the plastic bag. And I'm happy to demonstrate to the guy. I'm almost like Vince from ShamWow. Look at this. Grab that shit and put it right in this bag, and I never had to touch it. It's a beautiful thing. What do you think that guy made? Who came up with that? Was that an individual? We'll have to research that a little bit. The poop bag for dogs. I was seeing a woman for a while. She came up with like a thing which was like a litter box for dogs. And I laughed at her and, of course, dumped her shortly thereafter. And, of course, she sold out to Pet Supermarket or something for $3 billion. The woman was already filthy rich. She had Van Goghs covering her toilet in the mansion that she owned up there in Jupiter. Remember that when I was dating a billionaire? Were you with me then? I think so. That might have predated Lubie. Jersey Kyle was dating this woman who her father had developed all of the Jupiter to Cuesta area of Florida. Remember that when Jersey Kyle was dating the woman that had like the 65-foot yacht, and she'd sail him down to Honduras for the weekend?
Yes, I'm well
He was
aware.
traveling the world and all kinds of exotic things. So I'm telling her every time I see her, hey, don't you have a friend that has like a fair amount of dough? Because my mother, that was her advice. I think that's every Jewish mother's piece of advice when it comes to romance and affairs of the heart. Is it not, Mike Lubie Lubitz? And you listened to her, which is good. You heard the cry. It's just as easy to fall in love with a rich girl. Me, it was the usual thing. Bartenders, secretaries, assistant sales people at the radio station. I mean, not even the people that are out there in the streets making real money, right? Driving the Porsches that are in the parking lot. Anyway, good morning. Good morning, everybody. You look good today, Lubie. You feeling good?
I'm ready for action. Yes, sir. How you doing?
I'm good. You know what? I feel great. And we're going to start a new thing today that's going to post later on Scoop Skolnick's 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm not sure how that's going to go because we're going to wing about 15 minutes every morning. And I don't really know that it's going to fit exactly, what I wanted to do because we really haven't had time to work on it yet. But as we refine this thing down, I think it's really going to be an asset. And we'll throw the first one out there today. A little bit of a rough job, but should be a lot of fun. And that'll be debuting sometime after 9 o'clock today on 5 Reasons Sports Network. What's it called? Defo on 5?
Yes.
All right. I mean, are you up to the challenge on that one, Lubie? We're going to just resurrect some old tired material and see if we can't make somebody laugh on another format. That'd be great. Willie Nelson was in town last night. Can you believe that? Willie.
He's still performing. Wow, good for him.
Still performing, right? I'm not sure that his performances are quite as tight and cohesive as they used to be. I don't know that they ever were, right? Because he smokes a lot of weed. But the oddest thing about the whole Willie Nelson thing, I saw him the last time he was at the Pompano Amphitheater. He was there again last night. I had really little or no interest in going. Obviously, I had no interest in going since I didn't go. Did I even think about it? I don't know. Mustang mentioned it to me. Hey, Willie Nelson's in town. I'm like, okay, so what? I'd rather see Don Nelson. Really, and that's the oddest thing about Willie Nelson is that he ended up like spending most of his time now in his latter years smoking weed with Don Nelson, the former straight-laced member of the Boston Celtics. I mean, everybody had crew cuts on the Celtics back then except for Don. Hondo, he had short hair. Havlicek, you had Bailey Howell. I mean, with the crew cut. And Tommy Heinsohn. He didn't have a crew cut, Tommy Heinsohn, but he didn't have a lot of facial hair. He didn't have a lot of long hair hanging over, even though it was kind of a hippy dippy era. And now look at him, Don Nelson hanging out with Willie Nelson, and they're wasted the entire time somewhere in Maui. It's great. Anyway, he was in town, and end off a month that was the hottest month in the history of South Florida, the hottest month of February ever. 82.8 degrees, the average temperature, Libby. 82.8 degrees. What happened to the beautiful, balmy, temperatures that we had in the wintertime here? I mean, we missed that completely and went straight to blast furnace conditions the entire month of February. And here we are in March, finally here. And I always feel like singing whenever we get to March 1st. If ever I could leave you. Why have I gone into like a Robert Goulet thing lately? How could it be in springtime? Pretty much any time you could leave somebody, right, Lubie? Is there ever a bad time to break up a relationship? I'm not sure. Summer, winter, fall? What do you think?
Oh, there's no like, well, this is better.
How could it be in springtime? Springtime's
Summer.
great, though. I watched a little Marlins baseball last night. That didn't amount to much, but we are going to get some insight into what's going on with the boys and Major League Baseball. Our good friend Tommy Hutton going to join us on the program today. And also, I mean, an action-packed first hour of the show, preceding Tony Segreto in Old School, as we'll also feature. And I love this guy, man. I mean, he's been there since the very beginning. I always admire that. And it goes back to what? The Heat's original season was 88-89. What would you say that's a fair guess? On my part, 88-89 is, I believe, the first year of existence of the Miami Heat. So let's try to do the math on that. You have 12 years to 2000 and 23 after that.
35 years.
35 years of Heat basketball. And guess who's been there the entire time? One of like a handful of people that can claim that distinction. The great Eric Reid. Play-by-play voice, and a much beloved character here in South Florida. Is there anybody, you can't have a bad thing to say about Eric Reid. He's the nicest guy in the world.
He's
a real professional, does a dynamite job on what he does, thoroughly prepares. I mean, it's not like he mails in after 35 years. You think Johnny Most was studying the roster 35 years into his Celtics tenure there? As a steal by bird.
It's like...
Most? You think he prepared all day? I mean, you see Eric Reid and he holds up like his chart. You're like, my God, we were talking about that with Iron Eagle the other day on a program, that everybody is known for their board. I used to make like all kinds of preparation and preparatory notes for games. I could never really decipher what the hell they were once I got into the game. My theory was, I mean, if you were doing a team on a regular basis, you obviously know your team very well. So now in basketball wasn't too tough because you only had to know 6 or 7 guys really. And then, as the subs came in, if they went deep into their bench, then, maybe you would have to pick up a thing here or there. But it was pretty easy because you knew your guys even by their tendencies, right? I mean, even if you were calling like Dolphin games and there are 53 guys on the roster, you're thinking, well, I can't remember them all. But you can tell by their tendencies. Like, right away, wow, that was Duper. That was Clayton, by the way they caught the ball.
Yes.
But, the prep work that these guys do, it baffles me. It's like they come in with a chart, the board, and it's like they just prepared Andy Reid's play chart with, color configurations and bars and everything. I was never able to do that, right? Never able to really follow that pattern. And the other thing, if you're doing baseball especially, is you have to be able to keep a scorecard. The other stuff, you're being fed stats the entire time, and they're telling you stuff in your ear, but baseball, if you don't have your own scorecard, then you can't do any recount of the game, which is a major component in broadcasting baseball. Well, he's 2 for 5 on the day today. Grounded to short in the first inning, struck out in the second looking. And you have to be able to decipher all that. And it was particularly difficult in those baseball games that I was doing for many years. Because, they'd bat around like 3 times in an inning. you were writing on the table. You know how that goes, where you were like signing something and then it would just whoa, I have my signature on the tabletop here. It's pretty rough. Sonny's scorecard was always a tough thing to figure out too. I had no idea, and everybody has their own codes, don't they, for scoring? I was very fortunate in that. As a kid growing up, we were sort of obsessive about. We would buy a scorecard when we went to the game and actually score the game. Sit there and fill everything in. Yeah, that was a ground and a short. That looks like 6-3 to me. Mike Lubie Lubitz. Now, were you familiar with these kind of scoring notations and the vernacular, I guess, of scoring baseball through numerology?
I never did it. Like when I was growing up, you'd go to games and people would do them, and you'd hear broadcasters talk about scoring the game on your score.
If you're scoring at home,
yeah,
which nobody was scoring at home, right?
I never knew anyone to do it, but
in any way.
You go to the park and you'd see the older dudes who like had the radio while they're watching the game live, scoring. And I'm like, that's a lot of work.
That really takes away from your enjoyment of the booze at the game and the chance to ogle hot chicks that happen to be strolling through the stands here. But yeah, I used to do it. I used to keep score when I went to ball games. I actually bought a scorecard, and the pencil for 10 cents was the biggest ripoff, the golf pencil. And who brought a pen? Nobody. And if you did, you probably forgot it, right? Lost it on the train or whatever, fell out of your pocket. But anyway, Tommy's going to join us. We'll talk a little baseball with Tommy Hutton and Eric Reid later.
That's annoying.
Yeah, Miami Heat, same as mine. That impossible for them to make any kind of dent in a championship run. And yet, is it impossible to conceive of them winning a series against one of the better teams? Impossible? Not sure about that. Milwaukee's won 15 in a row. What do you think? Lubie, then they have a shot against the Bucks. They have a grudge going with the Bucks. The Bucks crushed them like a grape in a revenge matchup. Last year? That was like Texas steel cage variety.
2 years ago when they went to that
2 years ago, yeah,
first round, then they got swept.
Right, and they had knocked the Bucks out of the playoffs in the COVID year.
Yeah.
So when they were playing in the bubble, and that was a shocker to many people. And I don't think it was lost on the Bucks. And the Bucks were very bold about saying they're going to beat the living snot out of the Heat the next time they get them. They couldn't wait to get their hands on them.
They did.
Usually, the rematch in boxing, the guy that won the first fight wins the second fight even more convincingly.
Well, the Heat were banged up. The Bucks were like fully healthy and pissed, and the Heat were literally shell of themselves, and it showed.
15 in a row, and they won all of their games in February, the Milwaukee Bucks. What do you think? Rounding into form, perhaps, there, Lubie?
Well, Heat, last night, they beat the Nets, and the Nets, so now the Heat are a game and a half out of the 6th seed. Because that's where they want to get is the play-in. Not only we figured out how many games it is, and to get through, it's 1 to 2 games, so why would you want that? But then your reward is playing the Bucks or the Celtics, and I don't see them beating either of those teams in the first round. Yeah. But I could see them beating a Knicks, a Cavs, or even possibly the Sixers, because, they just beat the Sixers. So that's at least possible.
I think they have the Sixers again tonight in one of those oddball home and homes.
They're playing at home, yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll see what happens. Was that a fluke that they beat the Sixers the other night? They started making three-pointers.
They hit shots.
With the kind of regularity that they haven't all season long. All season long, they've been bricklayers, Mason cards being issued by Pat Riley. Pat Riley comes in the locker room. He gives everybody a Mason card. You're in the union now. Go ahead. Hoist those bricks up there, Kyle Lowry. 28% from the field. Unbelievable. A lot of stuff going on. We want to touch on a few things before we get into our guests here on the program because we're very guest intensive, but all good people. Coming on the show. It's 3 of our favorites. I love T. Hut, and I believe he's a fan of the show. I think he's still following us here on the video stream, which is nice to know.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I haven't talked to him in a while.
Yeah, a lot of people, it was too complicated for a lot of people to find that used to follow us on 940, and I understand that because I can't even find Lubie every morning. Well, a lot of times because he signs on at 7:05. No. It's it's one of those things. I am not computer savvy with any of this downloading stuff or people telling me they listen to the show on the radio, and I would not even have one iota of an idea about how to bring that about. It would be in my own car if I wanted to listen to the show, which I guess, does it broadcast all day? I think you could plug this in.
And all day long. Yes, sir.
My God, you could get us all day long. This should be an asset to us, not a detriment, Lubie. What do you think?
All right.
All right.
time.
The combine. I mean, this is a town that was very heavily draft intensive to the point of really being absolutely absurd, right? Where people would be talking about the draft all year long. The Dolphins would be 0-1 after the first week of the season, and the first call on that Monday sports talk show that you would do on 610 WIOD, 6 o'clock at night, the phones are starting to light up. I have a tendency to want to take telephone calls, although it became completely out of vogue and something that was deemed to be detrimental to sports talk shows. We don't want to hear from the people. We don't care what they have to say. Which, I mean, it's sports talk. You're thinking you're going to have some kind of two-way conversation with the fans out there. In fact, Lubie, I don't know. I mean, it would be a little bit awkward for us to incorporate calls into the show, but you do have the chat line, and we appreciate the input you get there. Although, to be honest, I am inputting nothing on the chat line. Everything is coming from Lubie because I can't figure out how to even sign into this thing. And how long have we been doing this now? A couple of years almost, a year and a half?
Mail doesn't respond either. I'm like, I don't know. My setup is different than your guys, so I don't know how it looks to you guys.
It looks fine to me. I really enjoy, the feedback that we get. A lot of people weigh in frequently, and every now and then we hear from somebody new, and you're thinking, yeah, man, yeah, it's working. It's working out there. But the obsession with talking about happenings at the Combine, I found always absurd. Now, I'm not one of these guys to summarily dismiss everything like a lot of sportscasters do or sports talk people. And I guess the most common example was when people would turn their back on the Radio Row concept, which we've talked about many times. And I thought it was one of the best things that you could do as a talk show host.
We haven't gone the last 2-3 years, and that hasn't changed my opinion of it. I think it's very useful if you do this, you do any form of media or content producing. You're in one room and there's people of all kinds there that you would.
A convention of greats. Exactly.
It's great. Now, some people are stupid with it and they just want to talk about the game. I'm like, look, if I have.
Well, you know what about their running a game against their defense? Yeah.
Doing a commercial for L'Oreal, I don't want to talk about the Super Bowl.
No.
That would be.
What do you like in the game there? Who's playing? That's always good. Now, we had a good time with the people, and I think they enjoyed themselves on our show, which, is always a benchmark where you're thinking, okay, that guy walked away and said, I really enjoyed doing that spot. Now he's going to do 30 others, and, they may be dreadfully boring because they all are essentially the same. A lot of laughter, a lot of forced laughter, and gratuitous radio laughter on that stuff. But not with us. I felt like most of the stuff we were doing was pretty genuine. No, Lubie?
Yep. I think it's genuinely real.
Except when Doug Flutie was going to punch me for having that tabletop drum off.
You still did it.
Yeah. He didn't like it, though. But he was way better than I was. And I'm a great tabletop drummer. Because I cheat on the tabletop drumming and spin my fingers, whereas most guys just, give it, like the full hand treatment there, as if they were playing a pair of congas. But I'll roll it. I don't know if you can hear that, coming through there. No, that was awful. But I love the vagaries of the things that come out of the Combine, including our own guy, who is Mr. Confusion, if there ever was a guy. And I enjoy him. I think he's a good guy. I'm going to root for him, Mike McDaniel. I would like to see this guy succeed. I'm tired of looking at a string of losers lining up in the coaching on the coaching sideline there for the Miami Dolphins, and the same questions pop up all the time. But we now have I believe we do have the exact same set of questions with Tua Tagovailoa that we've had, with virtually every quarterback except for a small period of time where he had demonstrated perhaps that he was somebody that you could more than live with as your quarterback. And maybe, do you want to use this cliche, Lubie? I mean, is it permissible on this show? You can win with this guy. No, that really deserves one of those. Actually, it deserves the derisive Mexican whistle, which I broke out at Hialeah and nobody got it. There were a couple of young Hispanic people, very attractive two couples that were, very, very pleasant to be sitting next to there at the fights. And I broke out. Do you know the literal translation of Sigalo? Like if you're at the fights, they used to yell this all the time at the Olympic Auditorium. And a guy would get something going, throw a combination, and everybody'd start screaming, Sigalo, Sigalo. Doesn't that mean like keep going?
I think it means
that's what I think.
Yeah,
I think. But there would be nothing comical about a guy breaking out into a chant of Sigalo, Sigalo. No? What do you
I don't
think?
think so. I'm gonna look it
Give
up.
me a little Mexican music underneath that if you can. Sigalo would be like Cigulo, wouldn't it be the spelling of Sigalo? The other was andale, which we all know means keep going, right? Andale, andale, andale. But is Sigalo derogatory in any way? Because they looked at me.
It means like follow it up or stick to it.
Yeah, there you go.
Or keep going. Yeah.
These people turned around to me and looked and said, they started laughing. And I thought, oh, geez, what did I say?
Oh, no, you're an old white guy. And they could probably tell that you're an old white guy.
By the pronunciation of Sigalo?
You probably didn't say Sigalo. You're probably like, Sigalo.
No, Sigalo, Sigalo. They used to say it. I mean, it was like, you were introducing, some guy named Siegfried, man, like Siegfried and Roy. Sigalo, Sigalo.
A lot of the times, like, if I speak Spanish and my accent's pretty solid, people will smile because they're impressed.
Oh, because they turn around and they see a Jew sitting back there, pasty looking Jew. No, you look good. I mean, you've been out in the sun. Have you been using the pool at the house?
No, I do a lot of work around the pool. Pretty
All
much.
right. Very good.
Yeah, they probably are just, impressed that you're using Sigalo.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, that was very common at the Olympic. I mean, I would often jump up and start yelling, Sigalo, Sigalo. Right? As my guy who was trailing on all scorecards going to the last round finally landed a punch. And, you were going to have to pay off. I mean, the booking action there, the betting action was with the guy next to you. I mean, you'd see the money just circulating like they were passing, when a vendor would pass like a hat down the aisle there, and then they would pass the money back and you'd have to send the change down, and it would touch like 30 different hands. Imagine if that was happening during COVID. We would not have been able to sell souvenirs in the stands. All right, we're going to come back in just a moment here with Tommy Hutton, our good friend Tommy Hutton, talk a little baseball and see how Tommy's feeling about the Marlins. We got a fairly I don't know. I mean, it was not depressing what Dave Hyde had to say, but it was not overwhelmingly encouraging, would you say? When Dave Hyde was heading to spring training that morning last week, and he said, I'm going up for the first practice. And I said, well, how you feel about it? And he said, not so hot. And we all know the narrative, as they now call it in sports talk, where, we know the Mets are going for it. Well, we know that the Philadelphia Phillies were in the World Series last year. We know that the Atlanta Braves have somehow taken an organization that was in the gutter, the absolute gutter, gotten, as you said, a new stadium, which you didn't even know happened, right? I mean, they just got a new stadium, and now they have another new stadium. Yeah. And yet they managed to stock their team with some real long-term, young stars. And seem to have it going in the right direction. So 3 teams to overcome there. And the Nationals, I don't know. Did they throw in the towel last year? They pretty much got rid of a lot of their good players. And, were doormats, were they not? Did the Marlins finish last, or did the Nationals
end
up on the bottom? Yeah. What did the Marlins win last year? 69 games, did we say?
69 games, yeah.
All right, we'll talk to Tommy Hutton in just a moment here. Hialeah Park, beautiful time. Everybody's asking me how it was at the fights, and I said, you know what was great? Just being at Hialeah Park. Because I had the casino was rocking. I was in the champion simulcasting room. That was great. Always friendly people in there and a good vibe. And they got the Brass Rail Bar right in there, Crossover Cafe. You can get something great to eat just about anywhere in the place. They did an especially good job of setting up the concessions for the special event, which they always do. And they had great hot dogs and croquetas and all kinds of stuff. Everybody was happy and having a great time because that's the way they want you to feel at beautiful Hialeah Park. Still the grand old lady. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. When you get on the grounds there, you feel like you've gone into some kind of utopian escape. And then when you're in the casino, you feel like you're in a place where you're really in there with a shot to win. That's what Steve Calabro is all about, the casino manager there. The poker room is also excellent, and people always enjoy themselves. Very, very professionally run. And I've been in the poker room, was in a couple of little tournaments there as the so-called participating celebrity. And, after winning a few chips, you want to make sure you get knocked out about 9 o'clock so you can head home. But
exactly.
I'm all in with like 2-6 off suit, trying to bluff the guy and laughing. You'd never think I was bluffing, would you? Right? I mean, just trying anything to get the guy to, make the call there so I could get out of there.
Go home.
But not because I didn't love being in Hialeah Park, only because it was a long drive home. And I'm not really a big poker player. But if you are, you're going to love it there. Yep. And then, the champion simulcasting room is really one of the great spots anywhere on the planet for just punching away on the ponies there in a perfect setting. You're going to love it. And all the activity at beautiful Hialeah Park. Get a player's card, too, because they have a generous rewards program that is outstanding. And I think they're offering something phenomenal right now. Check that out at HialeahPark.com. All right, coming back with Tommy Hutton and then Eric Reid. And then Tony Segreto goes old school with us as we continue here on South Florida Live. And then we'll later on debut our new thing on Defo on 5 on 5 Reasons Sports Network. That's going to be a lot of fun, too. So back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
7:30. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapists, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
We always love having this man come back on the show, the great one himself from the Fox Sports broadcast team on Marlins baseball, and just an outstanding individual. The great Tommy Hutton joins us here on the show. Tommy, how are you, my friend?
Defo, I'm great. I was a little bit rooting for you with the golf back on television. I was happy to watch a little golf. I was rooting for DeChambeau because with this baseball stuff and no work, I was hoping you could squeeze me a 20. I'm a little light.
You've been hanging with Jimmy Haas at the Breezeway at Gulfstream, huh?
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on the Defo Show.
One of my minor paths to success in this business here locally was to always latch on to a new organization. When there was a new sports station, I went there. On the radio, new TV stations locally were established, Channel 33, 39. I immediately gravitated towards them to try and hawk my wares. A local cable, regional cable came on board. I was one of the first guys there with the old Sunshine Network. But I think, and it was always a great occasion whenever they would launch something new. But I think the greatest thing that ever happened in South Florida broadcasting history was when the Marlins realized their egregious mistake.
Yes.
Of letting this man go from their broadcast there as the color analyst, where he was doing an outstanding job and was beloved by everybody.
Yes.
And then, I don't know what happened there. These things happen, right? Well, we're going in a new direction. Hey, I want to go. And tell you, well, you're not on board there, Tommy. But bringing him back, I think, was as monumental an accomplishment for the Marlins franchise as winning the 2 World Series. We welcome on the show the great Tommy Hutton, who has made a triumphant return to the broadcast booth with the Marlins. Going to be involved in a lot of games this year. Tommy, how are you, my friend? Good to have you on the show.
Hey, well, first of all, I don't know if it compares with the 2 World Series, but I got to go back to the clip that you played before.
Yeah.
The past clip when you when I asked you to squeeze me a 20. I made that 20 back recently taking the over under on the wheelchairs for your junk food in Atlantic City.
Hey, you hit that right away, man. People went straight to the window. They didn't even bother picking up their their boarding pass.
Oh my God.
You should see those people sprint though when they get to the Atlantic City airport, and then the bus is like a few feet away, and they all just fly right out of the chair there, and it's like all of a sudden you're watching Carl Lewis in a track meet in the long jump. It's amazing.
Yeah, a new event in the Olympics. Yeah.
None of them need them on the way back. I guess they can't afford to rent them anymore, but that's the way it goes. How are you, Tommy Hutton? Good to talk to you. It's springtime, my friend. You have to be elated.
It is. I mean, it's funny how it doesn't matter how old you get. When spring training comes around, it's always an exciting feeling. I get a kick out of listening to players and managers from every team. It doesn't matter what team. Everybody's excited. There's a good vibe. And everybody has a good attitude. And well, it should be. It should be that way in spring training. So the weather, first of all, has been absolutely spectacular.
Yes.
About the last week and a half. And this is a great time for players to get in shape.
I know it was the Red Sox. What was like Tim Tebow grabbing a bat for the Red Sox last night? Good crowd. I don't know if you were at the game up there in Jupiter, but it was on TV on the MLB Network. And I'm looking going, wow, I wish this would happen in the regular season.
Well, as they say, the Red Sox travel well, and they did. A lot of their fans were there. I think first of all, speaking about crowds, I think the crowd for the WBC in Miami are going to be unbelievable.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's going to be a lot of fun. And, I think people are interested to see, my opinion anyway, people who follow the game a little bit are interested to see how these new rules are going to affect things. And I think they're going to come out. And, if you're a fan of the Marlins, I think you're interested to see how certain players are going to perform, how this team that Kim Ng and Bruce Sherman have put together, how they're going to perform. So, I look for decent crowds this year. I actually do.
Well, we certainly hope so. I mean, we'd love to see the team have some success. Last year was particularly brutal, and then it led to the departure of one of our favorite guys, who I thought was an ideal guy for the position, and especially with the roster that he had, Don Mattingly. But he had to be close to going bald. I mean, all those one-run losses last year, I mean, had to be sickening early in the season, and then they were never really able to get it going. But Mattingly leaves, and now Schumacher comes in, and I saw a little piece on Bally Sports Florida. They had one of the features about Schumacher, and I was overwhelmingly impressed, Tommy. That this guy, if you were going to replace a Don Mattingly with a young guy with no previous managerial experience, he seems like he would be an ideal candidate. What is your thought about what you've seen from him?
Well, he's been tremendous to talk to and just go up and talk about what he plans to do, and to make one more note on the one-run losses. The one-run losses last year, I believe there were 40.
Yeah,
44 or 40.
Wow, think about that.
It was the most one-run losses by a team since 1975.
Oh,
wow.
So
wow. Holy Carlton Fisk. I mean, that's something.
You stay in a few of those games. But to talk to Skip Schumacher, first of all, he has a great pedigree, spending a lot of time, most of his time in the major leagues with the St. Louis Cardinals organization. Yes. As a player, last year he was bench coach for the Cardinals. He spent some time playing. He actually played a year for Don Mattingly in L.A. with the Dodgers.
Wow.
And then he spent some time working in the organization with the Padres. So, but most of his time is with St. Louis, and I think we all know the kind of pedigree that they have. And so he's bringing that to the organization, and I think that's really good.
You mentioned the new rules, and one of which I'm sort of appalled by, although it'll probably lead to more guys being on base, which has been a problem. And that is trying to legislate the shift. And I've always felt this way, Tommy. I don't know if you're, I mean, you're kind of a geezer like me, although you don't look it, but I always felt like, hey, I mean, you should be able to defend a guy any way you want to. It's up to the hitter to be able to take advantage of the fact that there's nobody on the left side of the field. Hello. Do you believe that that's a good thing, that they're trying to regulate that, or they have now?
I like it. I like it. Okay, people here. I'll give you some food for thought. And I know when food comes into play, Chef Bolas comes to mind. But I'll give you
no doubt about it, man. It was great.
Here's some food for thought on the ships.
Yeah.
Everybody, the ones who think it still should, and everybody should be able to hit. First of all, guys are throwing 98 miles an hour, throwing a lot harder than they did back when you and I were kids.
True. Yeah.
And I always tell people, oh, yeah, it looks easy. It is not that easy to take a 97 mile an hour fastball that's on your hand and go the other way. Yeah. So here's the other food for thought.
Yeah.
Okay, you consider yourself old school, right?
Yes.
Okay, what was old school baseball? No shifts.
Oh, they weren't shifts.
Old school baseball, everybody played their regular position. You hit a ball up the middle, it was a base hit. Yeah. You hit a ball in the hole on the right side, it was a base hit for a left-handed hitter. So it's basically going back to what old school used to be.
Mm. Okay, it makes some sense. I mean, I agree with you with the velocity, and it's not just you used to have like one guy that threw the ball, with that kind of velocity. Now, some scrub reliever comes in middle relief, and he's got 100-mile-an-hour heater. So your point's well taken. And I do believe this, that all of us that are complaining that nobody can place it in the big leagues probably were, place hitting in our beer league softball slow pitch league, where you could tell the guy, hey, I want this thing way outside because I'm going to step across the plate and hit it to right to the fat kid. And it's just not the same. I mean, and when you're up there and you face major league pitching for years, you're pretty much just hoping to make contact and let the ball go wherever it does, right?
Yeah, so I actually think it's going to create, and as a matter of fact, there was a base hit last night. I think one of the Red Sox guys, Tristan Casas, got a base hit, about a 2 or 3, 4 hopper up the middle, which last year would have been a sure out.
Yeah.
You know what people like to see, base hits, base runners. They want to see, I think, a little more action. And I think that's exactly what these rule changes are going to do. They're going to not necessarily, the game's going to be shorter probably, but I think the main focus was to pick up the pace and have more pace in games and a little more activity out on the field, a little more action. And I think we're going to see that.
Yeah, it looks like it's working already. I've never seen people so euphoric about time of game. In fact, we actually put in a call to the Major League offices to Rob Manfred and ask him if he wanted to buy the rights to our Johnny Addy. The time, because we think it should be played as the clock winds down on every pitch, and that'll alert everybody that, okay, we're about to go to the post and open the gates here.
Well, yeah, and I think times of game, I think the average time the last couple of years was over 3 hours.
Yes.
Some people complain. I don't think a lot of people complain about that. But again, it all goes back to pace, activity, action, things that are happening. And you want to, maybe you're going to have less time to go get a beer, but so be it. Yeah. You're going to be able to see some action and hopefully see some base runners. And that's one of the things with the offensive improvements that the Marlins have made. Hopefully you'll see some more runs scored. Hopefully you'll see Jazz stay healthy, Soler and Garcia. You want to see them stay healthy. I'm really excited to see Luis Arraez, the kid who won the batting title in the American League last year. He's going to be at second base. See him hit, the left-handed hitter. He puts the bat on the ball. He makes contact. He's your kind of hitter, Defo. He's your kind of hitter.
I like that, and you like to see more balls in play. And one of the things I guess also that has been detrimental with all the strikeouts is that you don't see how magnificent these guys are defensively.
Yep. Almost
universally around the league. I mean, you see some guy come in and you never heard of him, and then he makes some brilliant catch in left center field. And you're like, my God, they make these things look routine, which is not as easy as it would appear, when you're just sitting on the couch watching on TV. Quick thought, Tommy Hutton, about you mentioned some of the things about the team and the changes. Very difficult division, as we've been alluding to throughout. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to see that the Mets are all in, and we know the Braves are always good. Philadelphia in the World Series last year. So, what do you think? I mean, you know where we're going with this. I don't know if I don't want to put you on the line there, but our people at Deal Volkswagen, they were always very encouraged to go with the over, and it's a fairly decent jump from what they did last year.
What's the number? What's the number?
I believe it's 75, but
it's like 75.
75, I believe. There's some optimism about this team.
Oh, I think the over is a pretty good bet.
Oh,
Nice. Okay, yeah.
I think the change of schedule. I think the change of schedule with playing your division fewer times, playing your division 13 games instead of 19.
Oh,
Yes.
And then having a chance to play teams who, and I always think it's an advantage for the pitchers, and that's certainly the Marlins' strength. You're going to be playing teams, as an example, I'll throw out Kansas City. You play Kansas City, they're going to have, depending on how the rotation sets up, they're going to see some tough pitching for those 3 games. So I think that's a little bit in favor of the Marlins. So I think that's a safe one. So unofficially, I would say the over is a good one, Defo.
All right. Well, and you'll be happy to know, Tommy, we thank you for being with us, that before the trip to Atlantic City, I picked up a little capital at like 4 points a week. A guy gave me a break. And I came back with enough money that if indeed it ever comes about that you should be in need, we can always squeeze you a 20, my friend.
Well, it's. I'm just happy that the Mustang has slipped you a little extra, so you can make those wages. The one final thing, I was really distraught when I found out, and I'll let it go with this. When I found out, and I'm happy that you're back now on your walk of life. I was distraught with broken toe. I mean, you were out for a while. You were on the IL.
He was.
I mean, it wasn't like I was in the NHL. This thing was pretty screwed up. It still looks kind of funny. It's one of those deals where it'll never look the same. I look like Larry Zonka, my feet. If you had Zonka's face, where my nose is by my ear, I mean, that's kind of how it looks right now. But I don't care. At 72, cruising in on 72, does it really matter anymore? No. You're just happy to be breathing. So we're so happy you're going to be, and you're going to be on a bunch of games this year, right?
I'm going to be. I'm going to have, right now my schedule has 54 home games.
Oh, beautiful.
I hope I see you out there.
We'll have to get out there. Yes, we'll have to get out to games, yes.
That's going to be great. No, we're going to come out. We're coming out this year. We're becoming believers again.
Yes.
You have us, again, infused with enthusiasm for the Marlins, and I'm looking forward to it. I would love to see winning baseball here in South Florida. It'd be great. Tommy, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for doing this.
Hey, Defo, always a pleasure talking to you. You guys stay healthy.
Thanks.
All right, will do. Won't be easy, when that broke. The toe's fine, Lubie. I tested out today on a tennis court. So this will be the first test of kind of like pushing off a little bit on the balls of your feet, which the walk of life, I'm being passed by ladies that have walkers with 4 tennis balls on them. And, it amazes me because I always love when sporting equipment is used in a different capacity, right? Like a guy uses half a basketball as a yarmulke. You forgot your yarmulke at shul, so you just like cut a basketball in half, put it on your head. I don't know if you ever did that. No,
did any of that. You did weird stuff growing up. Jesus.
But the tennis ball employment on a walker, what do you think, Lubie? I mean, is it not masterful the way people have employed half tennis balls to kind of pad the bottom of the walker? Does that impede you from being able to move fluently? I'm not sure.
I think it makes them move faster, I thought.
Okay, good, yeah, because they're passing me on the street.
Yeah, it allows you to move almost like a wheel instead of like the little stoppers, like the rubber stoppers stop you.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. All right, we're coming right back with Eric Reid going to join us here. Heat play-by-play man. And then Tony Segreto going to follow that with Tony Segreto's Old School Hour in the 8 o'clock hour of the show. So right back in a moment. Now that.
The time.
7:48.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Recently, we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us. Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business. And the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. Before you call the insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752. Would you go into court without an attorney? So why would you go up against an insurance company without Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa? 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Give them a call at 954-809-8752. Why go up against insurance companies alone when you can have Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa on your side?
Let's hope we're dead wrong about a lot of things. That could be another book that we put out. Let's hope we're dead wrong about a lot of things. The end is near. You can tell the end is near, man. You could definitely do that.
The modern day odd couple, Defo and Lubie, are on now. It is, of course, the Defo Show.
Rare that anyone achieves legendary status within their own lifetime, but this gentleman certainly would qualify for that distinction. And gentleman also is a very appropriate description to attach to this man. Well, one of the greats, and been there since the very beginning with the Miami Heat as part of their broadcast team, and now is the man most closely identified with the Miami Heat, other than Pat Riley, I believe. And that would be their outstanding play-by-play man. The great Eric Reid joins us here on the show. Eric, how are you, my friend? How you doing?
You're hired. I never had a PR guy. You'd be the guy. You're testing the limits of my humility, Defo.
Well, having been a Jets fan your entire life, I understand, because I was there with you for a long period of time, and it's always particularly painful.
I'm still there, but the best story I have about being called a legend, last few years, Heat fans have bestowed that to me in person from time to time.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, I came home from a game and told my wife, "Hey, so guess what? They were calling me a legend at work tonight." She goes, "Okay, legend, take the stuff out of the dryer for me."
That's great.
Yeah, the dog pooped in the living
room. What
room.
I've learned is legends can help. You understand? And clearly more important to be a legend at home than at work, but not striving for both.
All right, there since the beginning, so you would have great insight into this. I don't know if you can let this information go to the public, but is there an actual vaccine? I'm watching a game last night. I guess it was 2 nights ago. Yeah, and Cody Zeller, who hadn't played. I mean, he should have been in the same kind of shape as like Butterbean Esch, running up and down the court. And I mean, he makes a play on the offensive end, and then flies down and blocks Embiid's layup on the other end, a key point in the ball game. And I'm thinking this guy had to be injected with Heat culture when he got his uniform issued. Is there a serum? I mean, maybe a little UD blood. I mean, is there one that's out there that they inject people with when they come to the organization?
Not that I know of. Not that I know
okay.
of. This is
You've never seen it. Never heard anything about it.
Defo, this is a guy that's played that way his whole career, and that's what made him attractive to Miami.
All right.
And, he's an athletic, big guy that can run, defend, rebound. He's an excellent screen setter. It's funny to hear both Eric Spoelstra and Steve Clifford, who coached him at Charlotte, say the same exact thing about him. And it was guards and teammates love playing with Cody Zeller on the floor because he's so unselfish. He gets guys open. He does all the little things. So he's, and here's what he did. He stayed in great shape. I guess he was working out at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. I think he's even a little bit surprised, by the way, how well it has transitioned for him. But he's really helped him and Kevin Love. I mean, one guy hadn't played since last year. The other guy hadn't played in a month. And in 3 games, they have integrated themselves really seamlessly and well, and they're already helping this Heat team.
All right, and that was interesting, too, because, the Heat had lost 4 in a row. Jimmy Butler had said he was sick and tired of losing. I just came right out and said that after a woeful, Lubie was appalled by the performance against the Charlotte Hornets, who, haven't been a great team this year. But nonetheless, They go against the Philadelphia 76ers, a team that was still in the mix there, a few games behind the elite. Bucks streaking with 15 in a row. And, of course, the Celtics have been hot since the beginning of the season and on a blistering pace all year long. And I wouldn't have given 2 cents for the Heat's chances, but this is the NBA, Eric Reid.
Yes.
And sure enough, I mean, all of a sudden, the threes that have been bricks all year are draining with regularity from a variety of sources. And they go out and they make a bunch of key defensive stops at the end of the game, including Adebayo's block on Embiid's short jumper from the baseline. And they pull it out of the fire and snap the 4-game losing streak. It's been a little Jekyll and Hyde-like, though, for this team. How would you characterize the season, Eric? What are you seeing?
Up and down. First of all, the only thing that was missing was the 10th to make that, a flat-out revival meeting for Miami. It was a really important game. It felt like a playoff game.
Yeah.
And, a couple of things happened in that game that haven't happened in one in a long while, one in a little while. The biggest mystery of the season has been the fall off in 3-point shooting, from first in the league in percentage a year ago to 28th this year. And there's no explanation that I've heard yet that really explains why. But they made 15 threes in that game for the first time since December 20th. It was only the 8th time this season they shot 40% or better from three.
Wow.
Defo, they did that 31 times last year.
Yeah.
Wow.
They've been under 30% 18 times. When you don't make threes in the NBA, you got a big time chance of losing. The mathematical difference from a team making threes to missing is often too much to overcome. We do a little research with the help of one of our ace stat guys. Teams that shoot 40% or better from three in games this year are winning close to 70% of those games. So they were able to do that. The second thing is, what's made Miami a good team when they have been good is a disruptive defense that A, forces turnovers, and B, generates points off of those turnovers. The Heat offense has struggled all year without it. We're better when we're scoring off defense and getting into transition. So in the game the other night against Philly, forced 20 turnovers. That's the most in the last 35 games for the Sixers. Scored 22 points off those turnovers. So if Miami can find a way to make threes and force turnovers, they can close out well. There's 20 games left, 15 in March. You're meeting a lot of these teams that are ahead of you. The second game in a row with Philly, the Knicks coming in Friday, 2 in a row with Atlanta, 2 in a row with Cleveland. That's on the immediate horizon. So there's still time to right this season to earn a top 6 seed, which you need to, guarantee yourself a spot in the playoffs. 7 through 10, you got to go to the play-in round and win your way into the postseason. You're hoping to avoid that, but we'll see. I think the real personality of this season is still to be determined. So while there's time left, in a game like the Philadelphia game the other night still gives you hope. Now, Miami right now is a game and a half behind Brooklyn. They're 2.5 behind New York. The Knicks are streaking. They've won 6 in a row. The Nets, they're starting to struggle. Those two teams play each other tonight. Then the Knicks come here on Friday night. So the plot is thick, and I think it's going to be very dramatic and hopefully enjoyable to watch as this season winds up.
You had a chance, and maybe you can help us out to settle a little debate Lubie and I have. I'm not sure where this stands, but you just saw this guy close up the other night. I watched the game on TV. We know that James Harden is not quite the player that he was. He doesn't seem to be as explosive, maybe not as consistent. I don't know what his shooting percentage is on threes, but it seems like every time I see him, he's launching a brick. And he did miss that one at the end of the game, with a fairly open shot that he took at the buzzer there that could have won the ball game for Philadelphia last night. Lubie thinks he's a completely shot fighter, a waste of time. I would think he's been, somewhat of a meaningful catalyst for the Philadelphia 76ers and can really help them. What did you see in James Harden the other night and in general this season?
First of all, I think Lubie better keep his day job.
This is his day job.
That's a problem. This is the day job.
That's what I'm saying. And stay away from personnel evaluation.
Okay. Harden's not a shot fighter then.
Listen, he's not at the peak of his game. he went 6 straight years with the Rockets with over 200 threes. He had one year, I think he had 368. People forget he's 3rd all time in threes made. He is just to refresh your memory. He's averaging almost 22 points a game. He's got over 120 threes. He's shooting 39% from out there, which would lead the Heat, by the way. Nobody on the Miami Heat is shooting 39% from 3 this year. So I hope that lends a little perspective. Is he the great premier guard that he was for a number of years? No, but he's still a useful player. The synergy, as Doc Rivers explained it to us before the game a couple of nights ago, the synergy between him and Embiid is a lot better. Remember, he joined Philly from the Brooklyn Nets in the middle of last year. So he's had the whole season. He's better than was last year, and I think still good enough to get Philadelphia into the playoffs. But here's the problem with the Sixers, and it's not just Harden related. They're a good team to very good. I mean, they got the 4th best record in the league. But their whole season is going to come down to, are they good enough to beat Milwaukee or Boston?
Yeah.
They've been knocked out of the playoffs 4 of the last 5 years in the second round.
Yep.
If that happens again this year, that would be, I think, constituted as a failed season for them. And that's likely what will happen to them. I don't think they're good enough to beat Milwaukee and Boston in a series, but time will tell.
Dr. Rivers will be coaching in Istanbul if they get knocked out in the second round this year. I want to bring on a special guest. He's always with us at this time, and we're so happy that we can share a little bit of time with you, Eric Reid, because this guy also easily identifiable by his voice and certainly has had as distinctive a broadcasting career in South Florida as anybody. So we'll go ahead and welcome in our special guest here with Eric Reid, play-by-play voice of the Miami Heat.
Eric Reid, Tony Segreto here, my friend. You are a legend. So Eric, I got
not even in my own mind. You know what I am so incredibly fortunate to have understood that this was my way to stay connected to the game I love, and it was my 46th year in a row doing basketball for somebody. I started doing Cornell basketball my junior year at Ithaca College, and I've been so blessed. I have not missed a basketball season since then. Enjoying my 35th year with the Heat as much, if not more than ever. We appreciate it. We're grateful for the opportunity and the longevity we've enjoyed. And Tony, it takes one to know one. You, I would say.
Well, thank you, Eric. It's funny. You said 35 years and 46 years since being in college, and I heard somebody say recently I had gotten some recognition, and they had stood up. They were in the business, and they said, we all sort of say, are we in Segreto's years yet? Because I did 40. But,
wow.
But Eric, and I think you'll agree with me, and then I want to talk to you about the Heat a little bit. I think you'll agree with me that those 35 years with the Heat and my 40 years with NBC don't seem that. They didn't seem it at the time. Do they? I mean, you love what you do. You don't go to work ever. You are part of pop culture. You're part of staying current, and I think that keeps us young. That keeps us motivated. That keeps us moving. Even though, Eric, you'll have to agree with me that every year, no matter whether it's basketball, football, baseball, whatever you do, you're actually reading the same book. Every once in a while, there may be a different chapter. The chapter this year may be the lack of the unexplained lack of being able to score 3 points. Yeah. But basically, it's the same book. We have the ups and downs. We have the yings and yangs. We go on the 5, 6, 7 game winning streaks, and everybody's excited. And then all of a sudden, there's a lid on the basket, and no one can score. So I would guess that this has become good old school for you and good patience, and teaches you to become a better play-by-play guy, and you give a perspective that few play-by-play and color analysts can give.
Thank you, Tony. First of all, you just go one game at a time and try not to rush to judgment, and especially when seasons are not going as well, as others. You wipe the slate clean every single night, both internally and externally, and you come in fresh and ready to do the next game. And And even though I have been doing the same thing for 46 years in a row, what keeps me fresh is, number one, I love the sport and the game, and have such deep respect for the people that play and coach and officiate and manage our sport. Every game is different. And as much as I prepare for each game, it's so secondary to doing the live event and explaining and enjoying it as you go. So I'm very simplistic on how I approach my craft, Tony and Lubie and Defo. I've done the same thing for 35 years with the Heat. I prepare hard and I'm ready for every single game. And then I make sure to enjoy each one of them with the great fans that enjoy the games on television, or whether they're streaming it on the Bally Sports app. And that's how 35 years have just zoomed past. Just keep getting ready for the next game and enjoy each one as they come.
That's the only way I
was going to say, it seemed like yesterday, Tony, that he was calling Sylvester Gray bricks. Trying to figure out different ways to describe a ball that bounces up the front rim. Yeah.
You talk about seems like yesterday. I remember the day, and I want to bring up names that some of you may go, oh no, not now. I remember the day that Billy Cunningham and Lou Chaffel came into my office at NBC, closed the door, and said, "Listen, you got to help us get a franchise down here." And I remember promoting tickets, going to Arizona when the owners were voting on getting a team here, on finding our new owner and what it would take, and playing those first games at the Miami Arena, and bringing in Pat Riley, all of those days, the announcement of the franchise. It seems like yesterday. I still think of the Heat as a young puppy, when in fact it's becoming an old dog. And I agree with you. Doing the games like I did, it is. You prepare hard. You prepare for the unexpected. But again, it's the same book, and you just like to keep reading it and hoping that the end is a little different, and we'll see.
It's a long book. I got to go, but I wanted to share one story. You mentioned Sylvester Gray, Defo. It was about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Tony Fiorentino and I were doing the games together back then, and we're courtside at the arena. And Tony and I look behind us, and about 10 feet away, there's a guy standing about 6'5", shaved head. I don't recognize him, but he looked familiar. And about 2-3 minutes go by, and I turn around, and now Tony's standing next to the guy, the guy looked over at me. He goes, "Eric, do you remember me?" I looked at him. I go, "Still?" It was Sylvester Gray.
Wow. What are the odds we would pull that name out of that?
Here, in so many, he was 50 years old.
Oh,
He was playing in Italy until he was 50.
Oh, wow.
And he's doing a documentary on his life. He came back to Miami, and the end of my little story is, I don't know who was happier that I remembered his name, him or me. But
he's the Satchel Paige of basketball, for sure.
Hey, Eric, always a pleasure. I know you got to run. Thanks so much. Appreciate you taking the time being with us here on the show. It's always a pleasure, my friend, and we'll talk to you again soon, we hope.
Hey, Eric, listen, you tell Tony, as he knows, that you talk to me that...
you are a radio legend. We love you. Take care and be well.
All right.
There you go. That was it, Tony.
He was done.
He was done.
No, he said he had to run because we had him on from like a quarter to 8. We wanted to have you get on and get a little piece with Eric Reid because you're both legendary South Florida broadcasters.
Well, thank you for that.
That was kind of nice.
He's a good guy. He does a nice job.
Oh, he's tremendous.
I miss, I got to be honest, though. I miss Fiorentino. I miss him with Tony. And
I like John Crowdy, though. I think John Crowdy.
John's fine. John's
really
fine.
Yeah.
I just think that
Tony was a great guy. Everybody loved him. Yeah.
I just think they had a certain chemistry.
I did some games with Tony Fiorentino on the radio. That was one year when Sonny Hirsch lost his voice. So I ended up doing like play-by-play on UM basketball, and Tony Fiorentino did many of the games as a color analyst. And he was at the time, I think he was still doing the color analysis either on the radio or TV for Heat games as well. And so he was all over the place, and a nice guy. I mean, a good guy to travel with. I mean, just a terrific guy. And everybody loves him down here. He works with the kids, and he's always posting pictures on Facebook of him with like junior Heat. And you like to see a team that has that kind of commitment where they actually do have a guy that's out there in the community and he's doing these sort of,
and the guys
things.
a guy like that is visible, and he's visible. He's likable. He's charming. He has, he's the total package, and I think that's what you need. You really do.
Good guy. Yeah, no, look, he had a long. He's a lifer with the Heat. Also, he's been there since the very beginning, one capacity or another. Ronnie Rothstein left the Heat organization for a number of years and has come back. He was there obviously originally, and there are only like a couple of other guys I think in the whole organization. I believe the trainer has been there since the beginning. Is that right? And his name, I should know it, but escapes me right now. And I've been there forever. And our friend Dr. Harlan Selznick, I believe.
Still there.
Also, I think he was the Heat team physician from year number 1. So he's been there since the very beginning as well. All right, we're going to take a short break, come back, reintroduce Tony here. Ed Garcia is going to join us from Texas Roadhouse Restaurants, fine sponsor of Old School with Tony Segreto. Spring training, Tony. I love
it, man. I'm watching these games. I'm watching the clock. I'm look. I got to tell you what, man. Those bases look awfully big. Holy.
You know what? I haven't noticed that yet. I only watched a snippet of last night's game.
I'm really hoping. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if Ricky Henderson and Maury Wills were looking down and seeing the size of those bases today? They're going, what the heck? We'd have 500 bases stolen.
Remember, like when Maury Wills was on base, and they would throw over to first base like 28 times.
And then
before even throwing a pitch.
And then he'd go.
Yeah. I mean, now you can only do these guys would be at such an advantage if they absolutely knew that you could not throw another ball over to first base.
Yeah.
Because you've already used your 2. That's a strange rule that hasn't really been really focused on so far.
There was a joke like, what's new in baseball? Oh, nothing. The Yankees win. Ricky Henderson's upset about something. And he stole another base.
I was surprised to see that or hear that Tommy Hutton, who was with us earlier this morning, I don't know if you caught that, but that he was a fan of legislating the shift out of the game.
Yeah, and you know what?
I am not a fan of that still.
Well,
I mean, even after hearing Tommy.
I am not either. And we'll talk about all the changes. I mean, some of the changes I think are necessary. And even though I'm real old school when it comes to baseball, I'm trying to remember, and I know we got to go to break, but we'll talk about it when we come back. I'm trying to remember where we lost control of the game because I don't remember the game.
Tony La Russa.
I don't think I don't remember the games being that long.
They were never like that.
No, ever.
Never. No, I mean, when you go back in time, you look at old scorecards and they always had time of game. You're looking at games, that were like 11-5 in the 50s and 60s, and they were played in 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah, well, part of the reason too is that those
they kept their starters in number 1.
They kept their starters went 9 innings or at least 8 innings, and there was 1 or 2 relievers. They weren't changing them every hitter.
But I mean, but would that shake it up that much? I guess 6 pitching changes for each team probably would.
Yeah.
Lengthen the time of game, especially since they occurred in the middle of innings. All right, we'll come back in a moment. Ed Garcia is going to join us from Texas Roadhouse, so we're all going to get hungry this morning. Does he have a breakfast steak that we can
we gotta ask. We gotta ask.
A couple of eggs on top, that would be beautiful.
Tony must be hanging with Mayo too long.
Honestly.
No, Mayo's he's amazing. His capacity to pound down food is actually pretty incredible. I've been around people that could eat. I obviously can eat myself, but I've never seen a guy that could go to a heavy dinner and then go right to another restaurant and eat another one. Not post 50. I mean, we're not young people anymore. Remember the days you could eat a whole pizza and then go out and get something else to eat? Yeah, that's long gone, Tony. And maintain your svelte physique. Yeah. All right, back with more in a moment. Now that. It's 8:13. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in Style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. Since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
What we gonna do right here is go back, way back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
Tell me, doctor, where are we going?
Welcome back to the show, the Defo Show. Mike Lubie with you. Lubie continues to add to his background, his sporting background, as he now has the Brandon Knight basketball up there on the shelf. And this stemmed from a classic incident at the radio station, Tony, where it was Lubie versus the world. We had a little series going where
he pretty much against. He does not walk to the beat of the same drummer as most.
Well, I think he's become a little bit more of a conformist, at least to our kind of leftist woke ideas. But nonetheless, I mean, at this point, we were trying to find an identity for Lubie on the show, something beyond just punching buttons and everything. And the program director, who fortunately left after only 3 days of our working together, had come privately to me and said, "You have to be the one who tells him to never turn a microphone on ever again on your show." Like, you're going to make me do that? I just met the kid, man. And first of all, I don't feel that way because it's
program directors. They're all. I mean,
this guy went on a big time though. He's bossing Chuck Dowdle around in Atlanta, I think, at WSB. So, yeah.
What does that tell you about WSB's hiring practice?
The guy was very intelligent. I mean, he was one of these guys that spoke the language very well. When they start talking numerology and ratings and this and that and Q ratings and all kinds of sophisticated numerology. But the problem was he had no idea how to do this.
I know.
But, I mean, if you went by his ideas, you wouldn't have no show. It would have been a total atrocity. But we were trying to establish Lubie, so we ended up having him. He fought a UFC guy, a monster.
Yes.
This guy named Monster being appropriate. This guy's name was Jeff Monson. I don't know that he was the sharpest knife in the drawer. We interviewed him a few times on radio shows that we had a chance to explore, what the depth of his intellect, and it wasn't all that solid. Let's put it that way. I don't want to say he was dumb because he was huge, and he's got Lubie turning blue in a rear naked choke, and Lubie refused. He's so competitive, this guy, he wouldn't tap out.
Was passing out.
People are coming running into the studio. What the hell is going on here?
The building was outside. Defo started yelling on here, "Check, time out, you idiot!"
Then he got flattened at FAU. Our good friend Charlie Partridge puts like an Outland Trophy candidate on the field against Lubie, who has to try to block this guy. And the guy didn't get the message that we're, just a bunch of guys from a radio station there, and he plowed him into the ground there. And they literally had to peel him off the mat.
What do you mean?
So the best one was when he actually beat Brandon Knight in a game of one-on-one. The great Brandon Knight, local kid who played for the Suns and many other teams in the NBA. I think was with the Bucks also. And unfortunately, injuries curtailed his career after he got like a $60 million deal, which at the time was big money. And Lubie beats him one-on-one. He spotted the Lubie 10 in a game to 11, and he was on his cell phone talking to Kobe Bryant, who was alive at the time. And playing Lubie like where you put your hand on your little brother's head.
Did you shoot? Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. That kind of thing. Hey, here's a guy who probably could have triumphed over all of these guys.
Yes.
And, certainly doesn't need to resort to some kind of circus-like gambit to establish his name because he's doing great with Texas Roadhouse. Ed Garcia joins us here on the show. Ed, how are you, my friend?
Good morning. How are you?
We're doing well. You. We've been missing you, man. You've been traveling a lot.
I have been. I'm actually in beautiful Jacksonville, Florida this morning. And last week, I don't even remember where I'll be, but next week I'll be talking to you from Dallas. So a lot of great stuff happening. Yeah, so very, very happy. You know, Texas Roadhouse is getting bigger, stronger, faster. I'm actually hanging out here today because building some blueprints for Hialeah, Florida, and Lake Park, which is just right outside of Palm. So we got a couple new roadhouses coming near you.
Awesome. That is great news. And tell us about the other great stuff that's going on, because I know when you travel this long, I know there are some hidden gems that you all are talking about. Can you reveal anything that we can expect to see at the Texas Roadhouse that's coming up?
You know, we just do the same thing, stick to our core, you know, the 6-ounce sirloin, our flavorful ribeye, and just the quality and teaching ourselves over and over again. That's one of the cool things about Texas Roadhouse is that we really just kind of stick to the basics. Same blocking, same tackling, and kicking butt. But next week while I'm in Dallas, it's really cool. I'm excited. We're celebrating our people, which is one of my favorite things to do. People that had a really great 2022, we're taking them all to the Gaylord there in Dallas and celebrating their accomplishments. And I'm proud to say we have a lot of finalists from our area, that the roadhouses that you go and visit, that we will be celebrating. So very exciting stuff. One of them is the line dance team, which I'm still waiting. I think, you know, Defo, Lubie, Tony, you and I, we all need to get together and put up a little line dance routine and put that on the show and have our listeners vote on who's the best line dancer.
You know what? When you get back from Dallas, because we're all in town. When you get back from Dallas, we'll definitely make those plans. Because I think that would be an absolute
Twinkle Toes Tony Segreto. Lubie can dance. I would be the one with 2 club feet. Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
All I know is, first of all, I do have to say, just on an aside, I know you've probably been there before. But when you go to the Gaylord in Dallas, you better put your pedometer on, because just to get to your room, you'll put on 6,000-7,000 steps. So,
I am ready. Lubie, can we change his name from Tony to Twinkle Toes on the show?
It would be terrible if that stuck. It really would. Yeah.
You know what, Ed? We talk about the steaks. Just before you go, I want you to bring something out, because you know we're approaching. It feels like summer here. People are grilling, and everybody loves their burgers on the weekend. And we always talk about the steaks. We talk about the ribs. We talk about the sweet potato. But we don't talk about how great, and I'm telling you, you guys want a great burger. You sit at Texas Roadhouse with a cold one on a hot summer day and a great burger. Tell us about that burger at Texas Roadhouse.
Well, we have a wide variety of burgers, but I'll tell you, it is an 8-ounce patty, absolutely fantastic. If you want to throw on another patty, you can, but I'm telling you, you don't need it. With a freshly baked brioche bun, we shred the Monterey Jack that goes on there. We throw a little bit of our sassy onions and sauteed mushrooms on top. And that's okay. If you don't like it, you can get it without, with some fresh chopped lettuce, red onion rings, and tomatoes. I'm telling you, it is one of the best burgers. And one of the secrets that I'm going to share is that we take some great time toasting that brioche bun. So that way none of the juices seep in there and you get that crunch as you bite into that burger. Absolutely fantastic. One of my favorite things. Not so great on the waistline, but it tastes delicious.
Well, that, and again, like I said, a good cold one, the coldest beer in town by far. Some good French fries or that sweet potato on the side, and you're set. I mean, there's nothing better than that. That's like ambrosia right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful thing. And you know, I saw some complaints on Let's Eat South Florida about another establishment, Houston's. And they're $21 burgers. So I don't imagine that the price point on that burger, as spectacular as it sounded, is anywhere near that, which is another nice thing about Texas Roadhouse. Ed, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, guys. Have an awesome day.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right, beautiful. Ed Garcia, ladies and gentlemen.
You know,
that's a good company, huh, Tony?
Oh my gosh! You know, I met them. I met them through when I was doing business with Ultimate Software.
Yeah,
and they were Texas Roadhouse. Well, first of all, Ultimate Software at the time was always ranked one of the top 5 companies in the country to work for, and then Texas Roadhouse. So Ultimate would always bring on companies that they do business with that kind of mirrored what they did, and the way they treat their people. the culture. That's what makes them special. It goes beyond the food. It's the people. I mean, there's not a soul I haven't sent there that doesn't talk about beyond the food and the price, like how welcoming they all are and how comfortable they feel there. And I think that's critical.
Well, and Defo brought up let's see, South Florida, which is literally that's the norm is infighting about restaurants.
People fetching, yes.
Gets universal acclaim except for Roadhouse. And so I'm not gonna lie, like we both now seen it multiple times where someone unsolicited was like, yeah, I went there last week, and they talk about the thing, and then 40 people, of course. I'm like, okay. And you never get unison there. No, there's never unison, which is fine. It's South Florida. It's just funny. That's the one place that everyone like hails.
Yeah. That right there is incredible, because in South Florida, you're always going to find someone that's going to bitch. There's going to be something, but the sun. What a beautiful day!
Universal.
No, it's not.
It's so hot outside. Well, that's why you live here.
Gosh,
right?
it's always
80 degrees in the wintertime. It's beautiful.
You have an 80-year-old shooting you the bird in the parking lot because you're taking their space. And going, right? Are you really? Are you kidding me right now?
Over the white line.
Oh gosh.
Pig. Yes.
Yeah. Hey,
right,
listen, special. I gotta tell you, you know who's watching us this morning?
Who's that?
A special shout out to the great Joey, number 37.
Oh yeah, beautiful.
He's watching us this
Nobody
morning,
better,
and
man.
we wanted to tell him hello. Good
Talk
morning.
about legends.
Yeah.
And once again, I always have to apologize to Joey for that time I cursed him out when he dropped. No, he didn't drop it. He overserved in a playoff point that cost me the twin superfecta. And it was combined with like Orlando highlight and Fort Pierce highlight. It was going to be like a rich man for life. And
well, I got mad at Secretariat.
Joey?
I got mad at Secretariat because he only won by 31 lengths, and I said 33.
Yeah, no, he never did that, Joey. Joey was a dynamite, man. And the Blue Hairs in the front row, they loved Joey at Dana. When he was at Miami, too. I mean, it was rocking. Remember, this is old school. I was so exciting to go, especially when Joey was in the heyday there at Miami Highlight. The Yankee Stadium of Highlight, and he was putting it on Aziz and all of these other guys. And, there'd be 7,000 people in there. You couldn't get a seat. There was standing room only. A lot of people there had made money maybe by illicit means that were up there in the clubhouse partying. There were pyramids of this stuff. And everybody was having a great time. And it was brilliant sports action. It wasn't like baseball where, you had to wait like an hour and a half for a shortstop to make a catch and a throw. I mean, this was going on constantly.
The greatest, we laugh, and I think about the things that I've done and the things we've done. We would do between shows. How me and Weaver would go.
Did you call some pro highlight? I mean, on
the
radio?
I did
no.
actually. But no. Yeah,
wow.
But we did. We would leave the office after the 6 o'clock show. We'd hit highlight for a quick couple of games. Yeah. And we'd leave highlight. We'd go to Flagler or Biscayne Kennel Club for
Biscayne right on a beach.
Yeah. And then get back for the show. And it was what a great, and then we realized we'd get back. We go, damn, we never ate. But you were like so excited to go to all these, do these things between shows and get some action in and get a chance to see some people. And it was really a lot of fun. It was an exciting time in South Florida because there was a story the other day that I read, and wasn't a local, wasn't Sun Sentinel or anything, about how before Miami got hockey and basketball and everything, we used to really transition from the end of football season with spring training, the golf tournaments, tennis tournaments, and really kind of keep it going until football started again. And now we have all these sports, but it seems like we've watered them down so darn much that we can't get a good crowd anywhere. Either that or just people aren't interested.
I think there's a lot of indifference, in this town, especially to losing, which is an unfortunate byproduct of what the Marlins have done, that they have driven the crowds away. Last night, it's funny, they get better crowds for spring training than they do in a regular season.
Well, I think part of the reason is that, you have a lot of snowbirds down here, and it's who they're playing. Again,
the Red Sox were there last night.
Yeah, they're going to get a lot of people. So I think that there's a lot to be said for that. I long for spring training. I love spring training.
Yeah,
I really did.
I remember covering a lot of spring training events and going to games and thinking, when I was a kid growing up, as and we were of a similar era. I mean, you actually paid attention to like the spring training box score, and there'd be like 27 teams there, and you were looking. Hey, did Cannizzaro get a hit? Can you believe that? How
Exactly.
can we send this guy to the minors?
Yeah.
You know, and you were debating stuff all through spring training. I don't have the same interest in it as I used to. I don't mind going to a spring training game if I get talked into it. But you know, right now too, it's really weird, Tony. My friend, I think, was I telling you this last week on a show? My buddy wanted to go to a spring training game, and $78 for tickets to see the Mets in Port St. Lucie for a spring training game.
Oh my goodness.
Where you're maybe going to see a guy out there for maybe 2 innings tops that you can recognize,
or a pitch.
Scabini City, coming in the rest of the way. Guys have numbers in the hundreds there.
Yeah. I have to tell you, I don't know if I brought this up last week, and please stop me if I did. But we were Rose and I were watching TV, and I walked into another room, and Rose was watching this news show, and she called me and she said, "Have you ever heard of this guy?" And I look up, I go, "Oh, that's Ken Burns." She goes, "Oh, you know who you?"
Oh yeah. You say you were talking about.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what. I revisited. I told you I revisited baseball.
Yeah, that was a great documentary, no doubt. Must see.
If that doesn't make you fall back in love with the game, nothing will. And Roseanne, by the way, has gone. She's like seen already 3 of the documentaries, and we talked about Vietnam. I remember that now. So I just think
the Vietnam thing was just unbelievable. I mean, I like war flicks in general, and especially documentaries. And we grew up in Vietnam. I mean, it was the first real televised war, essentially. And you were seeing clips there, and you still couldn't imagine what the hell was going on unless you actually met somebody that was there who would come back, which I lived across from a guy in college my freshman year, and he had just come back from Vietnam, and he was not ever going to be the same, this guy. I mean,
no,
at least not
how
for a
many
long
of us
time.
had our friends? I mean, we were, I think, I know I'm a little older than you. I was part of the first lottery.
You're older than me. How come you look like a kid, Tony? What are you doing? You and Minervini, the 2 guys that never age. Craig Minervini.
I know Craig doesn't age at all. At
No.
all. I'm getting there. I'm about to have a birthday the next 6 weeks, so we'll get up there again. So I always think.
I mean, is there a number? I mean, can you give us an over/under, and we can take a guess?
I'll just tell you flat out. My next birthday, I'll be 73 years old.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you look great, kid. I have to say, Tony.
Yeah, you look amazing.
You're inspiring at this point. Is it all that time in Vermont where you're just kind of relaxing? You don't have the tension of the city, traffic and everything. Guys,
that's part of it. Deep faith is a big part of it. I will tell you a story. I was telling someone.
You're going to live to be 130, Tony, the way you look.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah, wow. Another 60 left.
I always think of the great Satchel Paige. I interviewed Satchel Paige a number of times, and one of the times I said to him, I go, "You're like in your mid 50s. You're still pumping it. I mean, you're an amazing guy.
Yeah.
Is there something that you haven't done that you want to do?" And he looked me straight in the eye without missing a beat, and he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Every night I go into my bedroom, and my goal is when I shut the light, I want to get in the bed before the light goes out."
So pretty fast to be able to accomplish that.
Yeah, man, that is my goal. But boy, I'll tell you what, it's interesting to see as you get older, and you'll probably agree to this, Defo, that your mind is still young. It's the rest of you that you forget.
It's partially true. I can see that. Yeah. The body's always sore. That's the problem. Doesn't matter what I do. And I'm going to test out a little tennis today for the first time since the old broken toe incident. And, I know I'm going to be just stiff as a board after that.
So
if I can move at all, which is
know.
Unfortunate. It didn't used to be that way. We were talking about it the other day, because it always gets me. I find it comical when you see these reports from the combine, which has sort of been diminished in terms of importance. And they'll say, well, Namath's going to go, but he's not going to throw. And you're like, well, what else would you want to see him do?
Exactly. Come on. Yeah.
What is the point of being there unless you're going to show that you can throw? And you used to go, and I'm sure you did this, where you would play like 9 innings of stickball, where you threw the ball against the wall, and with a little Spalding or a tennis ball, and then go out and pitch like a senior league game that night.
Oh yeah,
Or an American
sure.
Legion game, and so what is it for these guys to throw if they're quarterbacks? Well, why else would you want to see a guy
I have no
at a
idea.
combine with a bunch of scouts out there?
Heck, how many times when I was growing up, and Bucky and I laugh about this, talking about the combine. Bucky and I laugh, going, we run 3 different teams. A couple of all-star teams or whatever that would travel, in Legion, and you'd be playing all day.
Like 3 games. You were happy if you had like 3 games. Yeah.
Exactly. By the way, I have to share with you.
Yeah.
And I was telling Roseanne, because she broke her toe too. But because of Joey, thank you, God. Thank you, Joey, for the heads up on this. He introduced me to this new sneaker that I went and bought the other day. They're a little pricey.
Can you show us one? I mean, do you have one?
Well, I have it on my foot now. That's not going to be.
Right. I have to take it off during the break.
But the name of the sneaker, you may have heard them. They're called Hokas, Hoka.
Hoka. All right, I'm going to get
and I'm telling you what, I have
had a difference.
Oh my Lord. They look a little funky because the cushion on it are thick. They have the orthopedic ones, and then they have the regular ones.
Right.
I went into Runner's World, and based on Joey and his son's advice, went to Runner's World, and I walked in there on Saturday. There must have been 30 people in that store, all buying Hokas, and from all different age groups. I mean, young people.
There's always the one that when he gets into, and then
and I'm telling you what, I walk.
You're happy,
I walk every day. Yeah. I have never been happier with shoes, and I've got flat feet and that whole deal.
I've got the worst feet you could imagine at this point. They're flat as a board. Then on top of that, with the gout attacks over the years, both of my toes are just absolutely a shambles.
Yeah.
And then the broken one seems to have healed up pretty well.
But you gotta look it up. Look up
Hokas. I'm not sure what I have. I have something that you put an insert into. And I just told the Mustang the other day that because I'm walking about 4 miles a day. So how long should sneakers last on that? I don't use them to play tennis. I have a different pair of shoes for that. But I mean, what? You get 6 months out of them? Is that a lot? I'm walking on cement.
Yeah, because I'm doing 4.5 miles a day easy. Yeah.
But they've worn out now because I could tell the difference in the way my feet feel after yesterday. And Mustang. This is a day. I had a thing about it on Facebook. It was an old memory where I had posted something, a bunch of different things from the fabled Defo Llama, a very wise individual that I try to learn from time to time. And I was saying, and this is old school. I remember when you used to put like a piece of cardboard in your Converse All-Stars and then, electrical tape after the sole had split away from the rest of the shoe.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd go out and actually play like in a league game that night with this taped up sneaker instead of just going online and ordering a pair of sneakers that are delivered an hour later to your door for $175.
Exactly. I still do that, and I get laughed at. It's like, but the reason I went and got these new ones is because I walk so far. And I always have 5 or 6 pairs, right, of sneakers around.
Oh yeah, well, see, I'm not in that league, man.
You're
like Imelda Marcos compared to me.
I switched them out, right? They all finally, after 5-10 years of doing this, they finally all broke down. Yeah. And my feet never hurt, and they started like, oh, this isn't right.
Yeah.
And then I found these and in love with them. Absolutely, they look. They're not a
sign them up as a sponsor on the show.
Yeah, they're not a pair of sneakers that you would wear with jeans or wear out, right?
Okay.
They are just meant for walking, playing, whatever it is, because they're kind of funky looking.
I'm laughing because, naturally, having played a lot of basketball in my lifetime, whether it was recreationally or whatever, I was, pretty much into sneakers, but we were old school. We got a pair of Chuck Taylor Converse All-Stars,
exactly, that was
which weren't the greatest sneakers, actually. By any stretch. I mean, the bottom wore out. It had that fabled, like innovative, grid on the bottom there, and but it wore out if you were playing on asphalt. Very, very quickly. You were much better off with like PF Flyers or Keds or any of the other brands that were around at the time. But then there was this new wave of like sophisticated sneaker and expensive sneaker that came out, I want to say circa like early mid 80s, right? And they had my favorite one, and somebody actually had these at the park where I was playing ball every night, that had the air pump. Where you pumped up.
Oh my God! You remember?
And I'm thinking, holy Frenchy Fuqua, what are they going to think of next?
Those did nothing. Those were the worst.
Never did I think, because I like you were Chuck Taylors were it. That was it. Whether you
overrated though in general.
Where you have the high tops or the low tops, and now today sneakers are such a style statement.
Oh yeah,
it's become such a. You look around in the gym and you just see
people kill people over sneakers.
Oh
now.
my gosh,
that's the weird thing.
What's really funny is you see a lot of these young people especially coming into the gym. These young high school kids.
Well, I haven't sniffed the gym
with their Chuck Taylors on.
Oh yeah. Well, it's become fashionable though. It's fashionable now.
Yeah, I would say Taylors, but I couldn't imagine playing basketball in them. I just walk in them and they get the bottom is a joke.
They would be the greatest innovation ever in the game, man. Bob Cousy was wearing them.
Oh my gosh,
yeah. Cousy. Yeah. If Cousy had them, Bailey Howell had the high top blacks.
Yeah.
And that was the big debate, and if you were really a freak, if you were smoking a lot of weed around that time as you were playing ball, then you got the red Converse All-Stars.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But as we've always joked, I mean, if you were wearing like pink Converse All-Stars, you better have some game.
Good, yeah.
You're not showing up at some park in Brooklyn and wearing the pink Converse. And
my daughter was
you're going to suck. That's bad.
My daughter was on this travel all-star softball team, and they were going to this tournament. And they wanted all the girls to like come off the bus the same way with this, warm-ups on. And they bought the girls pink Converse.
Pink Cons? Wow.
Yeah, to come off the bus and things like that. So
you had to have a hit rap record out or something to get away with wearing the pink Cons if you couldn't play ball. No, I mean, it was a statement. And there was always the goofball that would wear one black and one white,
Yeah.
I mean, this was in the late 60s when people were smoking a lot of weed and playing basketball, at least the guys that I was around. But no, I mean,
most of the guys
they wore out quickly. I remember my mother looking at me. I was spending my own money because I worked from the time I was 14. So I always had, my own capital for these kind of things. And we were in the, Army Navy store or whatever the hell it was where you got sneakers on Long Island. I had moved to Long Island at that time. And I was buying my first pair of Cons, and they were $7.99.
Oh.
And my mother looked at me, and it was my own cash. And she looks at me in all sincerity, and she was a bit on the negative side anyway about these sort of things. And she said, "Are you sure that's what you want?" Because it was outrageous to pay $8 for a pair of sneakers. Everything else was like $3, and that was it. But we wore them proudly. We really did.
My mother, God rest her soul, I remember getting a new football for Christmas.
Yeah.
And so we would have opened up all our presents, had our breakfast, whatever. And I would say, "Hey, I'm going out to play some football with the guys." And my mother goes, "You're taking a new football?"
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I go, "Yeah, why?" Well, you're going to get it all dirty and you could get it scraped on the road. I go, "Well, I have it to play with." She said, "But don't you want to like wait for a couple of days to play with it?" I go, "No, I want to play with it now."
Most toys and athletic equipment I had were ruined before I had them in my possession for a week. Well, I mean, my favorite ever story about doing something like that was when and I've mentioned this a few times. This guy Larry Bernarth, who was a reliever, and actually became a fairly distinguished pitching coach in the bigs for a while. And he was a reliever with the Mets, and he was renting a house with his wife in North Belmore. We lived in South Belmore. And we went up there, and we brought him a baseball. And the wife would take the ball in, and she would give it to Bernarth, and he would actually have it signed, the actual signature of all of the Mets. So I had every Met on the 63 Mets, not the 62. If it was 62, this would have been even more insane.
Yeah.
Because that was their first year. And a big Casey Stengel clearly across it. Right? And this was in ink. I mean, and what do we do with this ball? We ended up playing with it.
Oh, my God.
No.
And the guy was so gracious. I mean, because he would bring back, the ball to, signed by the entire team to like 7 different kids, Some guys didn't have new baseballs. I mean, they were like the autographs were on like an old, dirty baseball. But this was a brand new ball. I had bought a major league ball, and we were short a ball, and we ended up using it. And that was it. And that's what happened. I don't know if it'd be worth anything today. 63 Mets, not 2. If it was 2, this would have been, it had to be worth like $100,000, no? If you had a well-preserved autographed ball by the original Mets, would have been something. All right, so we're going to come back with more in a moment here. Tony Segreto, we're all school, and a lot of things happening.
This is fun.
Springtime. That's what it is, Tony. It's springtime. Everything is
Love
going on.
springtime.
Yeah.
For
So
baseball.
we'll come back with more with Tony in a moment. Now that
The time.
it's 8:43.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Recently, we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us.
No, he only deals with me.
Well, I mean, what did you do for this man? Did you bring him out of prison?
Say, what does that mean?
What did you do? Did you
get
get him off some rap? He was with
like,
El Chapo. He was about to do life, and you called an attorney on his behalf. What happened?
I'm like Costanza with the password for his bank account in that episode. I'm going to go to my grave with that.
Exactly.
Wow, I mean, you do get very generous odds. I would
I
have
do.
to say. No, I mean. That would be all anybody that was a sick degenerate like we are could ever dream about is getting better prices than anybody else. Various ball games. So we'd still find a way, we'd still find a way to lose.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
Welcome back to the show. It is springtime and a lot of stuff going on. South Florida was always known for the various spring training sites, and it's exciting for a baseball fan, young baseball fan. We were talking a little baseball just in a previous segment here. But Tony, I'm picturing you, and we have Tony Segreto with us, going old school, brought to you by Texas Roadhouse. Of course, the handsome one on the screen there is Mike Lubitz. Well, the young one, anyway. Although I don't know, there was a time there where he was looking older than we did. Tony, you defy Father Time here. I mean, you have him whipped, which is great. Me, on the other hand, I mean, it's questionable. I'm, on a very, very day-to-day basis here. At this
How old
point.
are you? How old are you, Defo, now?
I'm going to be 72 in July, so I'm closer to 2 than 1. And the time is flying by, which is not good.
Yeah, I'll be 73 in April. So.
Oh wow!
You don't look a day over 50. It's pretty incredible, and you're in shape. And like you said, you got to keep walking. The walk of life is a good thing. I'm glad you are subscribing to that theory, because it definitely is.
And you know what else I've learned? I try now, even though as you get older, it's harder to do, but I try to keep it with decent pace. You gotta.
Oh, no, that's not me, man. I was mentioning earlier, like people, they have 4 tennis balls on the walker, not even 2, and they're blowing by me like they were, Skeets Nehemiah. It's amazing. And I'm, and you look and you're like, how are they that far ahead of me, man?
Yeah.
How is that possible? But I'm not in a race there. I get my running in when I'm playing tennis, and I make the return today, which I'm very happy about. And we'll see what happens with that. But that's my story. I'm not exactly like a top-notch athlete. But I was picturing you back in the day, Pompano Harness. Maybe Cam Fella was running there that night, and they had the camera crews out there because they were covering harness racing. Holding court in his office was the great Alan Finkelson, probably one of the
greatest promoter, other than Ron Frazier, one of the greatest promoters I knew.
I mean, we're lucky to have these kind of guys. Frank Fiore, with a wonderful job he did with the boxing in Hialeah last week. And
Frank did a great job, didn't he? God bless that man.
Tremendous.
his energy just doesn't stop, and his beautiful wife Kim is by his side, and I mean, they're just
they really did a job.
Man.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was a well-run event. It was fantastic, and Frank looked like he could have gone 12 with the guy in the main event and maybe given him a better fight. Yeah, he really did. Because the house fighter was able to prevail with a sensational one-round knockout. But it was a beautiful, beautiful evening. And but Finkelson was unique in a lot of ways because he kind of had that Borscht Belt comedian presence, as well as being a very a guy that you immediately felt welcome with. Whether you knew him for 8 seconds or 18 years, he was just one of those guys that made you feel welcome when you came into his office.
Yep, I totally agree. He was a sort of cross between Rodney Dangerfield, Don Rickles, just as quick as could be. If he was your friend, he was your friend to the end. I mean, his loyalty was incredible. But his ability to sell an idea for a promotion was he was like this Svengali. I mean, he would sell it, and you'd go, damn, all right, let's do it.
He had some carnival.
He convinced all of us to get on sulkies and train and race and race like
the
really
media race. I did it once.
And they were so afraid that we would mess it up, and rightfully so. I mean, we're talking about expensive animals.
Hey, Bill Hutton checked out in the harness racing accident.
They would not let us. We raced, but we had to race in training sulkies, which is a lot different than the racing sulkies. So imagine taking a Schwinn bike with the thick tires against the new high tech. I'm going to do the.
So you went to the regular ones for the race?
No. We would stay in the training sulkies for the race, and even then, we would get up to 38, 40 miles an hour. And you're like going, holy God, what? How do these guys do this? I mean, you're
it's scary. Yeah,
you're living Ben-Hur, and if you had no idea what you were doing, that's why they made you train.
Did you use Ben-Hur tactics to win the race, Tony? I saw your name engraved on the trophy there. And
all I'm saying is Alan Finkelson convinced us to do it.
Yeah,
and convinced us like in a big way. I mean, we were all in.
It was an annual affair, as I recall.
and he would get crowds to come out and watch. It was remarkable, absolutely remarkable.
The crowds there were always good because it was a winter capital of harness racing. It was one of the few things to do in town. It was a big piece of the South Florida, at least northern Broward entertainment package, and they actually had good stuff. It was part of my Ratso Rizzo dream was to attend the races at Pompano Park. Yeah. Because we used to see that PPK designation when we were handicapping at Roosevelt and Yonkers, and you were thinking, I want to go where the sun keeps shining.
Yeah,
through the pouring rain, So we get down there, and I finally got to go, and I met Finkelson right away. But Finkelson was always holding court, and I could see you being a part of the scene. And I would imagine I may have even run into you during these days, because in his office now, was he also the PR guy for a while for the Yankees with Steinbrenner? Because he knew every Yankee, and they were all. The Mick is hanging out, just sitting on his desk there, chewing the fat with Roger Maris and Yogi.
Well, I don't know if he actually worked for the Yankees, but because Steinbrenner owned,
he was very close with Steinbrenner in the harness business.
Yeah. So George owned Trotter, so that was part of it. And the Yankees used to hang out there. We used to joke that if we wanted to,
I'm sure Billy Martin wasn't opposed to coming out and doing some degenerate gambling.
And we would have fun because one of the guys I played against and grew up with, because he lived in Miami, he was at Northwestern High, was Mickey Rivers. So we would act like if you wanted to get a hold of Mick, because he would never answer his phone. If you want to get a hold of Mickey, just go to Pompano. And you'd see Mickey there, and we go, hey, quick, answer your damn phone for goodness sake, But you're right. You'd go into Finkelson's office. First of all, his memorabilia was remarkable, and then you're right.
He had World Series rings and things like that.
Manlin Ford would be hanging out in his office, and you'd sit there, and you'd be sitting in his office going, I'm sitting in this office with Alan Finkelson, Mickey Mantle, Whitey Ford, Yogi would walk in, Rizzuto would walk in, and going, this is like I feel like I'm in the transfiguration from the Bible. I'm sitting there with
It's
Moses,
pretty amazing,
Elijah,
yeah.
and Jesus.
The people that used to hang out with this guy were incredible. Yeah, and that was always the way. And then it was kind of like going into Tommy Lasorda's office. Only it was mostly people that were in spring training and baseball people that I saw there. Although it wasn't uncommon for any celebrities that were in town to also visit this man's place. So of all the things that you did in spring training, I mean, is there anything that I have a few things that stand out from covering spring training here, and especially, I guess it was 1993, going up to Melbourne and Vieira, Florida, and covering the original Marlins spring training. We were up there with the radio station. There was a big concern, Tony. You can appreciate this being in the broadcasting biz. Of WIOD, which was the dominant radio station by far at the time, but they did not have the rights to the Marlins. And the program director, here we go again, this guy named Gary Bruce. So I was doing Sports Talk 610. I had just kind of taken over the show, like, maybe a few months before. And anyway, he decides that we'll never be able to compete with Marlins broadcasts on the radio because it's going to be so overwhelming. So we're going to cut Sports Talk from a 2-hour show down to one for one ratings period so we don't get buried. Which, was the dumbest thing. I mean, literally, it was okay for me in some ways. But, if you're trying to establish yourself, I felt like Eric Bieniemy, like you're never going to hit the big time doing a 1-hour talk show here. And, having been then preempted because they're scared that the Marlins, pregame show is somehow going to blow you out of the box there. And it turned out, even though the Marlins were a big radio hit, they didn't really dissuade anybody from listening to the Sports Talk show from 6 to 8. So the guy was dead wrong. But I remember Charlie Huff, and I know you know this guy because he was from Miami Lakes or Hialeah High?
From Hialeah, yeah.
Home of the Thoroughbreds. And I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, that's the opening day starter sitting there. And he was kind of hunched over like the guy that you see.
Puffing a cigarette, right?
Yeah, with a cigarette and a scotch or, some, dark, alcoholic beverage straight up in one hand and a cigarette. And this was when you could smoke indoors. And he's just sort of holding court with a couple of guys. And I'm thinking that guy looks like Burgess Meredith as the Penguin. And that's your opening day starter.
Yeah.
I mean, to use some French, we're fucked. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the red badge of courage, though, man. Yeah. At the time, my story on a personal level is I remember, and again, God bless Bernie Rosen. One of the things they drilled into you is like, hey, listen, I was 19 years old. He goes, listen, I know you're going to meet a lot of these athletes that are maybe your heroes or you're watched and you love. You could never let them know. I mean, you got to like play it professionally and be a professional. Don't be in awe. Don't ask for autographs. You got to be cool about this.
Yeah.
And he would drill that into me. So I go to spring training, and I'm leaning up against the batting cage. Where you're like this, in the back of the batting cage. And my elbow hits another elbow, and I go, "Good, I am so sorry." And I look over, and it's Mickey Mantle.
I thought you were going to say Joe DiMaggio for some reason.
I said, "You've got to be kidding me right now."
The Mick, you're just hobnobbing with the Mick. You used to be able to do that.
And he looks at me and he goes, "Tony Segreto." I go,
"He knew you."
Wow. I felt like Ralph Cramden. It was like hamina, 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 hamina. Yeah. And I shook. He goes, "Oh yeah, me and Whitey, we and Phil Rizzuto comes over. He goes, "Oh, you're an Italian. We watch you all the time." I'm going, "Oh my God!" I remember coming home and just like I was walking on air. I was like, "You got to be kidding me." This is like the best day of my life. This is like crazy, and it was just those days of spring training. You could and not because of what I had gone through, but you could really you could wait for guys if you wanted to. I used to see young people.
It was kind of that way in a regular season. I mean,
you could hang out outside and
hang out.
Yeah. I mean, just do. They were accessible. They were like, NASCAR drivers. They were just very accessible and very charming, very easy to get to. I mean, I remember having long conversations, like not just with so blessed to know that Satchel Paige and Sandy Koufax and spend time with these guys where they weren't under a lot of pressure at the time. And they would still talk to you and trust you. And there was never attacks. It wasn't any of that type of media at the time. So it was a great time, a special time for sure. Great story.
Well, hopefully you can use your connections. We can comp a couple of Marlins tickets. We'll go
Yeah,
out to
we
the game.
should go to Marlins.
Yeah.
We should go to the Marlins.
Why do we? Why it would be easier to get on a darn plane and go watch the Yankees play in New York.
Far more expensive. No, I mean, do the Yanks come down here this year? It's kind of like an every third year situation or something. I don't know. I don't care who I see. Once I'm at a game, I'm okay with it, no matter what it is. I enjoy being at baseball games, especially if you get some kind of action.
I'm curious to see if these new rules speed up the game. I really am. I can't believe,
or if they'll be enforced in a regular season like they are right now.
Well, that's what I find interesting. I think the person that's really under the gun is the person in the press box who is going to have to determine when the ball is back in the pitcher's glove to start the 15-second clock. Yeah. That to me is the person who's really under the gun, and now the umpire's got to be able to enforce it. That's why they have the clocks all over the place.
Yes.
So we'll see.
Like we said, they should, and Lubie tried to trademark this, but it's not in our intellectual domain. But he tried to trademark the Johnny Annie thing. The time, and we want to see if Major League Baseball will start employing that at all stadiums.
Well, have
it going off like one 1 second after another.
That, and the one thing I would love to have known the study they did as to the size of the bases and why they made it that specific size.
I don't get that one so much.
So I'd love to know the study they did on that determined and what kind of debate they had about that. I would just like to know. I'm not criticizing it at all. If it gives us more stolen bases and gives us more, listen.
We're one step away from aluminum bats here, Tony.
Yeah. Listen,
it's only a matter of time.
I know I harp on this a lot, and some people roll their eyes. But I'm telling you, one of the great joys I get watching college softball is that it's done in an hour and a half, and there's constant action. Yeah. I mean, the action doesn't stop. It's remarkable. And the rules are completely different than Major League Baseball and baseball in general in terms of, you can't steal until the ball leaves the pitcher's hand. But it's incredible. The action doesn't stop. It's fun to watch. It's just fun to watch. You sit down and you strap yourself in because it's going to be a fun, couple hours.
Beautiful thing. Tony, we have to run, but it's always a pleasure, my friend. Great job. Great having Ed Garcia on the show. And we thank Texas Roadhouse for being sponsors of Old School with Tony Segreto. And we really did. We went into the distant past. I mean, it was great today. It was a genuine old school, edition here.
So next week, we're going to talk about how we conditioned our gloves.
that was an art and a science in and unto itself.
You got that right.
And if you blew it, you felt horrible, because you're like, wait a minute, man. It looks horrible.
The old school guys, and this is a guy thing.
Did you use 3-in-1 oil? 3-in-1 oil?
Yeah, I used 3-in-1. I used, saddle soap and that whole deal. But here's the question. With the new kinds of hats, do you still bend the bill, or do you do it like
straight?
Oh, wow. I don't know.
I
have to bend the bill.
Yeah, I can't wear the straight across. My head was
down straight.
That doesn't look right on a baseball player.
I didn't like it.
Yeah, it looks cool, like if you're going out to a concert or something. Yeah. All right, Tony, we love you, man. Thanks so much. Always a pleasure. Tony Segreto. Thanks to Eric Reid and also Tommy Hutton, who joined us earlier today. 12 o'clock today, we have Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, and we will be posting something new on 5 Reasons Sports Network, and we're going to put that together here in just a few moments, and that'll be up there on 5 Reasons in short order, and a whole new thing, Defo on 5. Defo on 5. I have to get used to the name of the show. Because, it's the same people, right? It's you and me, Libby, right?
Yes.
15-minute flash, you get a little piece of what we do, a little piece every day.
Yes.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll work on it a little bit. We'll sharpen this thing up and see what we can do with it. They're just going to iron out some of the kinks this week, see what happens. And so we'll see you on that, and we'll see you at 12 o'clock. And then again tomorrow at 7. Tomorrow we got a blockbuster working, right? With I said that about this show. I don't know if you felt the same way as I did by the time the show ended. But no, I thought it was great. And tomorrow, we have Mike Vaccaro coming on, right? And also Glenn Gaffner, good friend of the program, speaking of
and the Trivia Challenge.
And Dave Gurgles Gurgley with the Trivia Challenge.
Some trivia fun.
Dave makes his return. So that's all happening tomorrow on the show. So we'll see you then at 7 in the a.m. as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 9:03.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.